All right, well, turning back to the major indexes, joining me now is Dan Geltrude, managing partner at Geltrude and Company. Dan, it's great to see you this afternoon. Look, we didn't end at session highs, but still solidly in the green. And these kinds of days, when it's a broad-based rally, and certainly when technology rallies, it seems like there is a vote of confidence in the market, that some of these inflation concerns, at least for today, certainly are tempered. What do you make of today's market action?
Well, I want to emphasize what you just said about today. I don't think inflation or the concern about inflation is going away by any stretch. Look, with all of the demand out there right now and what is happening with delays in the supply chain, there is no way around not having an inflationary period. We are going to go into inflation. I would even argue we're there already. However, the question becomes, when does it end? I do not believe that we are going into a long-term inflationary period. I'm not sure how long it'll last, but I could definitely see us, based upon limitations in the workforce and, again, supply chain challenges, through the end of the year, I anticipate we are going to continue to see prices for goods across the board going up. Not sure why the market isn't concerned today.
Okay, so if you are an investor, how should you be navigating this reality? I mean, certainly we see inflation for some goods up 50%. Absolutely astonishing. What is the average investor to do?
I think the average investor has to really stick with their investment strategy, right? Let's not get caught up in the shiny objects of what's happening. I have been bullish on technology all the way through. I continue to take that position. Companies like Amazon and Apple and Facebook, those companies are not going away. There is so much runway there, I believe, that you really need to continue to have belief in technology is going to be the future. It will obviously have its ups and downs along the way, but that is absolutely where everything is going.
Okay, so I guess maybe take a look at some of those stocks and that sector as a whole, Dan. You know, it's interesting. We talk about cryptocurrency more and more. Ray Dalio, the latest billionaire, to weigh in and say that he does own a little bit of it. And we are expecting a research paper from the Fed this summer in terms of basically their view on this. Are we going to get a digital dollar, and when might that come? Cryptocurrency, some would equate it to high-flying tech names. Are you on board with that?
I don't, personally, I don't like cryptocurrency from the standpoint of its volatility. Obviously, we are watching the craziness and how things are moving based upon tweets by certain individuals, and you know who I'm talking about. So now, when you could see that much movement on an investment based upon a tweet, it's always concerning. However, when we look at the blockchain technology, which supports cryptocurrencies, that is not going away, and that is where the value lies and where we're going in the future. It's very interesting that you have obviously countries like the United States and China are really getting concerned about what's going on with crypto. In the U.S., for example, there's a concern and a focus in on how are we going to tax it, and certainly that is something that we should be concerned about. Are we capturing all those gains and people paying the proper taxes? However, you have to look at whether there's going to be a significant interruption somewhere down the line in terms of the monetary system. As people lose confidence in the government and governments across the world, and they start to look at things like cryptocurrency and say, hey, the market is perhaps more reliable than the government. Well, to me, that means it's here to stay. And I would not be surprised in the not too distant future if we are going to see major governments like the United States jumping into the crypto game.
You know, it is interesting. I'm looking at the week ahead and what we have on tap. One of the big stories, of course, is this Apple Epic lawsuit, closing arguments kicking off now as we speak today as the week starts. But Apple investors really shrugging it off. I mean, that stock, one of the best performers today, could, though, jeopardize its key services business. I know, Dan, that you are hot on tech. You see technology basically as the economy of the future. How closely are you watching this Apple Epic lawsuit? And do you think there are any red flags that could impact Apple's business model and thus many people's retirement accounts?
Well, let's start with this. If this particular case has that much of an impact on Apple, it will be a seismic impact if it's going to have any effect on how Apple operates as a company. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think when you are looking at Apple and the tentacles that that company has in virtually all aspects of our life, I think it's really, really difficult to have that get pulled back or declawed in any way. So although I'm watching it and a lot of people are, I am not overly concerned that we're going to have something really significant impacting the future of Apple.
All right. Well, certainly we know that the big bank CEOs will be testifying in front of Congress this week as well, Dan. It is a pretty action-packed week, kind of a slow Monday, but things definitely kicking into high gear toward the end of the week. When it comes to that testimony, I think a lot of people have turned to banks in the past few months. They've seen it as a market opportunity as well as commodity stocks. And I'm just curious if there's anything that you will be watching for when those executives, those CEOs from the big banks testify 1 year after this pandemic.
Well, I think that ultimately the banks are going to come out all right in all this. And one thing I was thinking about, and you may have seen some of these headlines related to the Biden administration's proposal as to what they want to do with the IRS. And the reason I bring that up is Joe Biden wants to expand the IRS, bring in over 80,000 new hires and so on. But one of the things in there was about having regulations where the banks are going to have to report to the IRS regarding inflows and outflows in people's and businesses' accounts. Talk about a massive piece of regulation that will fall upon the banks to be responsible to have all that information put forth to the IRS. Not a lot of discussion about that, but I think that's really going to cause some, let's say, headwinds for how the banks are going to deal with that. No simple task.
We will be watching that indeed. I know that has a lot of people, Dan, scratching their heads as well. That's Dan Geltrude, managing partner at Geltrude and Company. Dan, always good to see you. Thank you.